How the movie canon fits into Harm City. There are a few differences. Mary Jane is played by Megan Fox. Peter fought The Rock instead of Bonesaw. The rest of the film played out the same. Spider-Man 2. Major changes occur. Jameson's son was on a space mission. Peter and MJ's relationship was on and off. A love triangle with Felicia Hardy during Peter's college years. Eddie Brock was introduced as a reporter from the Daily Globe. He became a laughingstock and ostracized by his peers. He was also fired from his job at the Daily Globe because Spider-Man caught the real criminal named the Sin Eater. Doc Ock was defeated but was pulled out the harbor and placed in a super-powered prison. Eventually, Peter realized MJ is the one and they marry. Spider-Man saved Jameson's son after his space shuttle crashed on the Brooklyn Bridge. While Spider-Man checks for any remaining survivors, the camera pans upward and a black substance drops like a sound of water from above as the film fades to black. Spider-Man 3 has major differences. Non-webbed costume is used. As Peter stares at his reflection hanging outside at night, he realizes he is not dreaming, but wondered how he got out there. Harry is not the new Green Goblin and is seeking therapy. Sandman is not in the movie. Mary Jane and Peter, now as newlyweds, move to a different apartment. Although MJ knows about Peter's alter ego, she tries not to worry about it. Mary Jane is starting to land gigs as a model and was cast on a soap opera called Secret Hospital. Shocker is the villain in the first half of the film. He's working for a crime boss stealing chemicals. Eddie lost his job, his girlfriend, and was evicted from his apartment, all while trying to apply for jobs. His reputation is in the toilet. Black Cat introduced. She played mind games with Spider-Man in a cat-and-mouse type fashion while stealing for a crime boss named Kingpin. Once betrayed by Shocker, who spied on her interactions with Spider-Man and thought to be a traitor to Kingpin, she decides to help Spider-Man. Spider-Man almost killed Shocker and realized he had to get rid of the suit. He found out it was clouding his judgment and that it was alive. He climbs to the bell tower of a church to try and remove it, realizing the sound was a weakness for the living costume. Simultaneously, Eddie was right underneath him when the costume found a new host. Now, knowing Spider-Man's true identity, thanks to how long the alien bonded with Peter, the now once rejected alien suit and Eddie has a mutual enemy and becomes Venom. Eddie, while in disguise, tried to kill Peter by pushing him in front of a subway train. The alarming thing to Peter was that his spidey sense did not warn him. He thought his powers were acting up again. Later, Eddie, after killing a security guard and posing as one in the building where Secret Hospital is taped, Eddie dropped a stage light that almost hit Mary Jane. Eddie later shows up as Venom to Peter and MJ's apartment looking for Peter, only to find Mary Jane there. He told her, while engulfed in full silhouette, with only slimy teeth, that if Peter did not show up to fight him soon, he was coming back there to take the things he loves away from him. This encounter caused Mary Jane to be petrified. Peter rushes to his apartment once MJ calls him. She tells him about the threats. Peter realizes this is no coincidence. Someone is after him. They can get to him at any time and any place. Frightened, Mary Jane decides to stay at her aunt's house for a while. The next day on Thanksgiving, Peter is invited by Aunt May to come over and spend Thanksgiving with her. Peter agrees, but makes up an excuse for MJ's absence. Peter is surprised when he sees Eddie Brock, the former reporter of the Daily Globe and Daily Bugle rival, sitting at the dinner table with Aunt May. Aunt May thought it was a great idea to surprise Peter with a guest who she thought was a friend. As Peter watches Eddie, Peter realizes the shirt Eddie is wearing has a familiar symbol. He knows Aunt May is in danger. Eddie asks Aunt May to be excused from the table to speak to Peter in private. Minutes later outside, Eddie tells Peter that he knows who he is. His life was ruined because of him. Now there's a price to pay in a duel to the death. The deadline is tomorrow, Eddie says, or loved ones will die. Starting with that sweet old aunt of yours. Mary Jane, she's at Aunt Anna's, right? Peter knows he has no choice but to fight him to the death. Peter agrees, then Eddie leaves. Peter makes up an excuse as to why Eddie didn't stay for dinner. Early morning before sunrise on the day of the showdown, Eddie shows up to his ex-girlfriend's house trying to rekindle their relationship. After a brief argument, Eddie shows her his true intentions and kidnaps her and demands that she watch them make things right again, meaning he and his symbiotic suit by killing Spider-Man. As Venom is preparing for his showdown with Spider-Man, Black Cat tries to intervene by attempting to free Eddie's ex. They have a quick battle when Eddie punched Black Cat so hard it broke her nose, and the impact to the ground knocked her unconscious. Spider-Man enters the area. The battle plays out similar to how their first encounter was in the comics. The battle between Peter and Eddie was vicious. Peter was outmatched but managed to survive in the end. Venom became a victim of his own scheme. After the battle, Spider-Man saves Eddie's ex-girlfriend from falling debris that almost killed her. Eddie, depowered after being electrocuted, sees this and forgives Spider-Man. The police show up to arrest Eddie for the murder of the security guard and the destruction of private property. As Peter leaves the area, he picks up and carries a barely conscious Felicia Hardy. Finally, knowing each other's identity, they watch as the sun rises over the city of New York. It is appreciated a lot more, for this day they almost died in battle. Months later, while Eddie is serving time in prison, he now shares a cell with a serial killer known as Cletus Cassidy. While feeling his powers have returned, Eddie breaks out. Unbeknownst to him, his human skin with some of the symbiote tore when breaking the iron bars of the cell window. It left a tiny souvenir behind for his fellow inmate. The scene fades to red, then the ending credits roll. This is part 1 of how the Spider-Man movies from UniVerse MEL fits into the Harm City canon. Part 2, coming soon. Art and renders by Melvin Frooks. Narration is done by AI.